So now we're getting to the good stuff, how to read your audience without being a creep about it. Understanding visitor behaviour is basically like getting a cheat sheet into their brain, or better yet, into their actual browser and their wallet. So when you start using predictive analytics, it's not just about counting clicks or staring at charts like a confused meerkat, but it's about spotting patterns. So you know what your visitors want before they do. And think of it as marketing almost with psychic powers minus the incense. So we're going to look at tools like PredictHQ for spotting trends before they go mainstream and how to use this intel to build smarter audience segments. So it's less spray and pray and more laser beam with a plan. So here's what you're going to walk away with in this lesson. You'll finally understand what predictive analytics actually do and why they matter. And spoiler alert, it's not just for data nerds. So you'll also learn how to segment your audience properly. So there's no more guessing games or trying to sell the same thing to everyone. So you're going to practice using these insights with real world examples. So you're not just nodding along, you're actually applying what you learn. If you've got a blog, an email list, or even a funnel, the easiest place to start is by looking at what your best customers are already clicking on. That's your roadmap. So don't overthink it. Just double down on what's already working. Also, don't worry if you're not a data person. I actually wasn't either until I realized the numbers could show me where my audience was ghosting me and where they were silently shouting, "Yay, this is for me." So by the end of this, you'll know how to read the digital room. And once you can do that, the rest of your marketing starts feeling a whole lot less like guesswork. This is where things start sounding a little bit techie, but stick with me, please, because predictive analytics isn't just a fancy buzzword. It's one of your biggest digital superpowers. So here's the deal. Predictive analytics is about spotting the patterns before they even happen. So you're basically using data to read the future of your landing page, the future of your website, etc. It pulls from algorithms and machine learning and past behavior to answer the questions we should be asking. So who's actually going to convert? When's the best time to post or email? Which piece of content is quietly flopping while you're still cheering it on? So here's a tip. You don't need to become a data scientist. You just need to ask better questions and let the tools answer them for you. So let's talk tools here. PredictHQ is brilliant for knowing what events are coming up that might affect demand. And Google Analytics predictive metrics gives you insights like which users are most likely to come back or buy. And Amplitude is another one for great for mapping users' journeys, so you can see where people drop off and where they actually lean in. And honestly, most people never use these, which is great for you because it gives you an unfair advantage. You're not just throwing out content and hoping for the best. You're actually building strategy with data that whispers what's coming next, and it's very, very powerful. So coming up next, I'll show you actually how to use this stuff and not just nod at it and move on. Now, here's where things get juicy, because it's one thing to understand predictive analytics and another thing entirely to use it like a marketing ninja. So let's break it down with a few examples of how this stuff works in the wild. So first up, real world results. So say you're using PredictHQ and it shows a spike in traffic every December, not just a little bump, but a full on 30% surge. So why is this? Well, well, it could be holiday shoppers. It's not magic. It's just data doing what it does best, spotting patterns we're too busy to notice. And what do you do with that spike? Well, you prep your landing pages ahead of time and you schedule your promos. So you ride the wave and you don't get drowned by it. And next, there's AI-powered insights. So this one's really fun. You plug your data into ChatGPT and you ask something like, based on this visitor data, what marketing strategies would you recommend to increase conversions? So now you've got an on-demand strategist in your pocket, and no, it won't ask for a pay rise. And then finally, you've got behavior forecasting. So then with this, you can try this prompt. Predict likely user behaviors for a landing page promoting your product based on these patterns, and put the patterns in. Seriously, you need to try that, because the insight you'll get back can save you hours of split testing, and it's way more accurate than actually guesswork. So use this forecasting to tweak your call to action timing, switch out your content blocks, or test when you drop that juicy bonus offer. So predictive insights aren't about replacing your gut instincts. They just make your gut that little bit smarter. Right, so now it's time to roll up your sleeves and actually get PredictHQ working for you, because looking at dashboards is fun and everything, but we want actual results. So let's walk through how to get this set up without needing a PhD in API wrangling. So first things first, head over to PredictHQ, just do a Google search, you'll see it right at the top because they've got a sponsored advert, and then create an account and then connect it to your Google Analytics setup so the two can have a nice little data sharing party. And once they're talking, you'll get access to all sorts of predictive gold. And if you're using make.com, that's even better. You can automate this connection so you don't have to faff around manually pulling in reports. And step 2, you can extract event forecasts. So this is where you'll get really clever. You use PredictHQ's API or just their dashboard if you're not into code to see what events are coming up that might impact your audience. So big holidays, sporting finals, or Beyonce tours, or whatever gets people offline and onto spending money. And then analyze your traffic patterns. So now that you've got the data, you need to spot spikes. Are people flooding your site during Black Friday? Does your traffic vanish when the schools break up? Patterns like these are what will lead you to predictive behavior instead of actually reacting to it after it's too late. So here's a tip for you. Pair this with your email campaign calendar. And if you see a spike coming, prep that sales sequence in advance so it hits just at the right time. And step 4, if you optimize your content schedule, this is the cherry on the top. Once you've nailed your event and traffic insights, you can time your launches and your blog posts and your landing page drops around those hot periods. So there's no more guessing, no more random Tuesday night releases, just strategic, smart publishing that's actually backed by real data. And remember, the goal isn't just more traffic, it's the right traffic at the right time, doing the thing you actually want them to do. All right. Now it's time to talk audience segmentation. And this is what turns generic dear customer marketing into this was made for me magic. And it's how we stop shouting into the void and start whispering all the right things into the right ears. So let's break it down. There's 4 key types. So the first is demographic. So this is your basic stuff, your age, gender, location, job title. And I've gone on about this already. It's not the most exciting, but it gives you the surface level context. So think of it like looking at someone's LinkedIn profile before you message them. It's helpful, but it doesn't doesn't tell you the whole story. But secondly, we've got behavioural. So now we're getting a little bit more interesting. This is what people do on your site. So the scrolling, the clicking, the ghosting, the rage quitting. Are they binging your content? Do they always open up your emails at 7 a.m. with a coffee? These are the patterns that you can actually act on. And if you've got a high click rate but low conversions, your offer might be a little bit off. So if you've got a high bounce rate, then your messaging might be a little bit fuzzy. And then we move on to psychographics. So this is the lovely stuff. This is the juicy bits. So these are their beliefs, their values, their goals, their fears, and everything under the hood. So it's why they're here, what they care about, and what will actually move them to action. So this is where your personas should really start earning their keep. And the fourth is why it matters, because let's be honest, blanket messaging is lazy and it doesn't work. So when you tailor your message to a specific segment, engagement then jumps and conversions improve and your ROI stops looking like a flat line. So remember, data's only useful if you use it. So segment smartly and suddenly everything you publish will feel personal, like it was made just for them. So now theory is great, but let's talk about what this looks like in the big wide world. So here's a real example. So you fire up Hotjar heat map and you notice visitors keep clicking on a product image, but not on the call to action right below it. So this is a classic case of curiosity with commitment issues. So these people aren't ignoring you. They're just stuck in explorer mode. So what do we do about that? Well, we name that segment something like engaged in explorers. So give them a name and then tailor the content that bridges the gap. So maybe a little testimonial or a cheeky little see it in action video or a reminder that yes, this button actually works. So segments like these are marketing gold. They're warm, active, but they just need a little nudge, not a massive hard sell. And this is where we bring AI into the mix. So pop a prompt into ChatGPT like develop a persona for visitors who interact with pricing pages but don't convert. Or segment users into 3 groups based on these behaviors from Hotjar data. So this is where things go from helpful to unfair advantage, and you don't need to guess what to do next because AI helps you interpret the patterns and then hands you those personas or content angles on a plate. It's basically you with a clone that reads heat maps and never complains about all the data. Okay, so now it's your turn. Let's actually use AI to segment like a pro. So with zero guesswork and no overwhelm, here's how we actually do it. So step 1 would be to input the data. So you start feeding ChatGPT your visitor feedback from responses or even session recordings. You don't need to clean it up or turn it into spreadsheets. Just copy and paste it and then prompt. Think, here's what users are saying. Help me find the gold. So, and then you're going to analyze the patterns. So you can ask something like, what behavior patterns can you infer from this data? And ChatGPT or whatever your favorite AI is will spot the trends your brain might actually skip over, like repeat questions or hesitation points or where they might be stuck, and use this to catch invisible bottlenecks. Sometimes your call to action is bad. It just might be in the wrong place. And then test your experiences. So use something like Google Optimize to test different versions of your landing page for each segment. So what works for your price shoppers might fall flat with your solution seekers. So you're not changing your whole funnel or your whole page here. You're just tweaking the front door for different guests. And then step 4 would be to measure the results. Track your performance metrics and find out what's working, what's flopped, and what needs a little nudge. And here's a golden rule. If a segment performs well, don't stop there. Build an entire journey around them. They're already warming up. You just need to keep the conversation going. So schedule a 10-minute check-in once a month and pull the data, drop it into ChatGPT, and then keep refining. So you've got the tools, you've got the patterns. Now let's turn that into strategy. Right, so like I said, let's take all this segmentation goodness and actually put it to work. So here's how you turn data into decisions and clicks into conversions. So step one would be to identify the high intent visitors. So you're going to use a tool like Amplitude to zoom in on people who keep coming back to your pricing page, for example. So they're not just browsing, they're poking around and they're weighing up their options, and they're probably mentally rearranging their budget already. So these are your hot leads, and they're basically waving at you from the bushes saying, I want this, but I need a reason. So step two would be create a pricing investigators segment. So give them a label. It helps you tailor your messaging without overthinking it. And this group gets copy that speaks directly to ROI. So maybe a comparison chart if you've got one. These folks are logical buyers. So skip the fluffy brand story and get straight into how does this help me and is it worth it? And then step three would be to customize their experience. So now you tweak your funnel or your landing page experience just for them. And that could mean swapping out the hero text and adding urgency, or slipping in a testimonial from someone who had the same doubts and is now raving about you. So you can even use AI here. So ask ChatGPT to generate 3 headline variations or rewrite your call to action for someone who's already price conscious but actually on the fence. And that line at the bottom there, let's not overlook that. Yes, use AI to write your segments, not just one size fits all content. You'll be shocked how a few words can shift behavior when they feel like they were written just for them. All right, so let's talk about the visitors who ghost you. They land on your page, they click around, and then poof, they're gone. No sign up, no checkout, no thank you. But here's the thing, these quick bouncers aren't lost causes. They just need a smarter second chance. So let's re-engage them like a pro. So step one would be to analyze the exit points. So use Hotjar session recordings to see where people bail. Are they stuck on a confusing section? Is the call to action buried? Are they distracted by a rogue cat meme or a tab? You can't fix what you don't see. So start by watching the trail they left behind. And then step two is to forecast the activity. So hop onto PredictHQ to figure out when these visitors are most likely to be online again. It could be lunch breaks or late nights or just before the school run. So timing is everything when you're trying to pull someone back in. And here's a tip. If you pair this with email or retargeting campaigns, watch them when they're warm and not when you're actually ready. Yeah. So step three is retarget strategically. Don't just fling ads out there and hope for the best. Target these folk with something specific and juicy and think, oh, you left this behind, or still thinking about it, with helpful nudges or bonus offers. So if you also add social proof, sometimes they just need to see one happy customer to believe it's worth clicking back. And step four is exit intent offers. So don't forget the good old pop-up. Before they hit that little X, trigger an offer, for example, 10% off or a free resource or exclusive video, whatever actually suits the funnel. But keep it relevant and don't beg. We're wooing, not chasing. Remember, abandonment doesn't mean rejection. It just means the moment wasn't quite right. And now with these tools and tactics, you're ready to try again, smarter, sharper, and more automated. Let's talk about the digital equivalent of a warm welcome, because first-time visitors, they're like new guests at a dinner party. If they walk in and no one says hello, they'll politely fake a bathroom emergency and probably never come back. Here's how to roll out the red carpet without the overwhelm. Step one would be to personalize the experience. So tailor your content to actually make sense for someone seeing it for the first time. This isn't the moment to hit them with your 12 module course or your 4-hour webinar. So start simple, start specific, and think, of a start here button or a short explainer or a quick quiz that gets them into the right part of your website or your funnel. And step 2 is interactive guides. Everyone loves to feel guided, especially when they don't know where they are yet. So drop in a short video tour or a walkthrough tutorial or something they can watch, not just read, and make it friendly, not robotic. Use Loom or Teller to record something low key and personal. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It just needs to feel human. And step 3 is predictive content. Now, this is where AI gets fun. So you use ChatGPT to identify common first-time questions and create content that answers them before they ask. So think, what is this? Who's it for? How much effort is this going to take me? And you can even ask what type of intro video would resonate with first-time visitors interested in, and then put in your product. And AI gives you the shape, and then you just make it yours. So remember, your job here isn't to impress, it's to orient and to help them feel like they've landed in exactly the right place. And they're not about to be sold to, but actually supported. So let's give you a real example of how all of this plays out when you actually use it. So Jennifer, for example, she created a brilliant digital guide called Time-Saving Tools for Busy Moms. And the content was spot on, the traffic fairly decent, but her conversions, not so good. So she wasn't getting the results she needed to make the business work on autopilot. So she turned to predictive analytics, and using PredictHQ, Jennifer spotted some clear seasonal trends. Interest spiked during back to school and post holiday chaos. So that's when her audience was crying out for what she offered. So she scheduled her campaigns to match this. Her emails, her posts, her promos, all automated using Buffer. Smart move. Next, Hotjar. Hotjar showed her that people were reading the testimonials but skipping the call to action. So this is a classic I'm interested but not sold behavior. Enter ChatGPT. She used this to craft a targeted pop-up that said, love these stories? Join thousands of parents who've transformed their daily routines. Enroll today and save 20%. Simple, personal, and timed perfectly with opt-in monster. She even used Google Analytics to catch bouncy first-time visitors and then retargeted them with a free guide, which was called 5 Time-Saving Mum Hacks, and she created that with AI, naturally. And the result, 40% increase in conversions, constant stream of returning ready-to-buy traffic, and a fully automated evergreen funnel doing the heavy lifting while she focused on growing the business and not babysitting it. So you can read the full story down below in the lesson content. Okay, so just before we wrap up this lesson, here's a few quick fire takeaways to look in. If you experiment continuously, this is not a set and forget it job. So you've got to keep testing your predictions. And as new data comes in, adjust, swap the headline, change the call to action, test a different image. It's not guesswork, it's curiosity powered by data. And then use AI for clarity. Don't drown in dashboards, and let GPT summarize what's working, what's not, and what to do next. And think of it as your own personal analyst without the salary, of course. Then track the metrics that actually matter. So look beyond the vanity numbers and keep an eye on bounce rates, session duration, and click-throughs. And these tell you if people are actually engaging or just skimming and then quitting. And then tailor your messaging. One size doesn't fit anyone. Ditch the generic calls to action and speak directly to each segment. So pricing investigators get clarity, and quick explorers will get urgency, and first timers will get a warm welcome. And here's a value tip for you. Tiny tweaks in user experience, especially ones based on predictive insight, can drive massive improvements. And tools like Hotjar and PredictHQ will help you find exactly where to focus, so you've got less faffing about and more impact. So here's what you've got under your belt right now. You know how to read your audience with predictive tools, and you've learned how to segment them with purpose. And you've seen how AI can help you speak to them like they're real people and not just clicks in a spreadsheet. So this is audience-driven marketing in action. And when you get this right, everything else gets easier. Your emails, your funnels, your website, your landing pages, your offers, even your confidence. And hey, you're not alone in this, because you've got the tech, you've got the tools, and me in your corner. So now go make your pages smarter, make your funnels tighter, and your landing pages absolutely spot on, and your conversions will climb. And I will see you in the next lesson.